In professional baseball, there are two sounds that every player learns to dread. The first is the phone call. The one that comes before you've finished your morning routine, before the clubhouse has filled up, before the day has taken any shape at all. The one where the voice on the other end is calm and professional and says words that rearrange everything. The second sound is silence. The specific silence of a locker that has been cleared. No jersey hanging. No equipment bag on the floor. No personal items on the shelf. Just empty space where a person used to be, and every player who walks past it understands immediately, without anyone having to say a word, what that silence means. Both of those sounds happened at Dodger Stadium this week. On the same day. Kim Hye-sung, designated for assignment. The locker, cleared. Mookie Betts, removed from the starting lineup. Replaced, suddenly and without extended warning, by you. Two announcements. One morning. A franchise that has operated with quiet, controlled precision all season long suddenly making moves that nobody in the league had seen coming, not the analysts, not the insiders, not the beat reporters who cover this team every single day and pride themselves on knowing what is coming before it arrives. And then, as if two shocks were not enough, a third piece of information landed. An unprecedented three-man change. The entire lineup for the upcoming Brewers game being restructured from the inside out. This is not a normal roster move. This is not a routine adjustment. This is a Dodgers organization, one of the most carefully managed, most analytically sophisticated operations in professional baseball, making a statement. Whether that statement is about the present moment or the longer arc of the season is the question that nobody has been able to fully answer yet. This is the story of what happened. What it means. And what it tells us about where this team is going. Let's start with Kim Hye-sung. Because his story deserves to be told with the full weight it carries. A DFA, designated for assignment, is one of the most complicated transactions in professional baseball. It is not a release, exactly. It is not a trade. It exists in a space between those two things, a kind of professional limbo where a player has been removed from the active roster but has not yet been formally let go. The team has a limited window to trade him, release him, or send him to the minors. During that window, the player waits. What makes a DFA particularly difficult, for the player, for the teammates, for everyone in the clubhouse who has to process it in real time, is the locker. The locker gets cleared quickly. Before the announcement is fully public, before the reporters have filed their stories, before the fan base has had time to react, the locker is already empty. It is a logistical necessity, handled by equipment staff who are doing their job efficiently and without malice. But the effect it has on a clubhouse is something that efficiency cannot soften. Every player who walked past Kim's locker on that morning saw the empty space and understood the weight of it. These are professionals. They have seen this before. Some of them have experienced it themselves, the phone call, the conversation with the manager, the quiet walk through a clubhouse where everyone knows but nobody quite knows what to say. They said nothing. Because there is nothing adequate to say. You keep preparing. You go about your day. You carry it quietly. Kim Hye-sung came to the Dodgers carrying genuine expectations. He was not a name added to the roster casually, he was a player the organization had assessed, evaluated, and decided was worth the investment. When things did not develop the way either side had hoped, the decision was made. Quickly, cleanly, with the cold efficiency that defines how the Dodgers handle roster construction. The DFA was not a punishment. It was not a statement about who Kim is as a player or as a person. It was a calculation, the kind of calculation this organization makes with more data and more precision than almost any other team in baseball. But calculations, no matter how precise, still leave empty lockers. And empty lockers still carry weight that numbers cannot fully account for. If the Kim DFA was the first shock of the morning, what happened with Mookie Betts was the second, and in some ways, the more disorienting one. Removing Betts from the starting lineup is not a routine decision. It is not the kind of thing that happens because a manager wants to mix things up or give a veteran a maintenance day in a low-stakes moment. Betts in the starting lineup is a structural assumption, one of the fixed points around which everything else in a Dodgers game plan is organized. He is not simply a good player. He is a foundational player. The kind whose presence in the lineup changes how opposing pitchers think, how opposing managers construct their bullpen plans, how the entire defensive alignment on the other side of the field gets set. When that player is suddenly not in the starting lineup, and the word "suddenly" is doing real work here, because the decision came without the extended runway of public reporting that usually precedes a major lineup change, the reaction is not just surprise. It is recalibration. Every assumption built around Betts being in that lineup has to be revised. And it has to be revised quickly, because baseball does not pause to let you catch up. The decision to replace him with you added another layer entirely. Because you, stepping into a spot vacated by one of the most complete players in the game, carries his own weight into that situation. The opportunity is significant. So is the scrutiny. Every at-bat, every defensive play, every moment where the lineup card shows you's name where Betts' name usually appears will be measured against a standard that is not entirely fair to apply, but will be applied anyway, because that is what the moment demands. For the Dodgers organization, the message embedded in this decision is clear even if the specific reasoning has not been made fully public. They are willing to make uncomfortable adjustments in service of what they believe gives them the best chance to win. Not comfortable adjustments. Not safe ones. The uncomfortable kind, the kind that generate headlines and questions and second-guessing from every direction. They made it anyway. The DFA of Kim and the removal of Betts would have been enough, on their own, separately, to dominate the day's baseball conversation. Together, they would have been the story of the week. But then the third piece arrived. An unprecedented three-man change. The lineup for the Brewers game being adjusted not at one position but across three, simultaneously, deliberately, in a way that signaled this was not reactive decision-making but something that had been thought through, discussed, and decided at a level above the day-to-day management of the roster. Three-man changes at this level of the game are almost never accidental. They do not happen because a manager woke up with a different feeling about the lineup. They happen because a conversation, or a series of conversations, reached a conclusion. Because data pointed somewhere and the organization decided to follow it. Because a window of games, assessed honestly against the current state of the roster, produced a verdict: this is not working well enough, and we are going to change it now rather than wait. The Brewers series is the context. And context matters enormously here. The Brewers are not a soft opponent. They are a team that plays with a specific kind of disciplined, pressure-based baseball that exposes lineup vulnerabilities quickly. If the Dodgers were going to make structural changes, if the three-man adjustment was going to happen anyway, at some point, in response to something, making it before the Brewers series rather than during it reflects a level of organizational self-awareness that is, in its own way, as impressive as any individual performance. They saw the problem. They addressed it. Before the problem had a chance to become a crisis. That is how the best organizations operate. And it is exactly how the Dodgers have operated for most of their recent history, with the kind of clear-eyed honesty about their own limitations that prevents small issues from compounding into large ones. Strip away the individual moves. Set aside the specific names and the specific positions and the specific game being prepared for. What is the Dodgers organization actually saying with these two announcements? They are saying that no assumption is permanent. That no roster spot, no lineup position, no comfortable arrangement that has been in place for weeks or months is protected from reassessment if the reassessment produces a better answer. This is, in the language of baseball operations, a completely standard philosophy. Every front office in the sport will tell you they operate this way, that they follow the data, that they make decisions without emotional attachment to prior choices, that they are always willing to adjust. Very few of them actually do it. Because doing it requires absorbing the short-term discomfort of the announcement, the headlines, the questions, the second-guessing, in service of a longer-term calculation that the public cannot fully see yet. The Dodgers absorbed that discomfort this week. Twice in the same morning. And then added a third move on top of it before the day was over. That is not chaos. That is conviction. The conviction of an organization that has looked at where they are, where they want to be, and what the gap between those two places requires, and has decided to close that gap now, on their own terms, before the season makes the decision for them. There will be analysis written about these moves for days. The Kim DFA will be debated, whether it was too soon, whether the opportunity was given fairly, whether a different deployment might have produced different results. The Betts lineup change will be examined from every angle, what it means for his health, for his role, for the team's offensive structure going into the second half of the season. The three-man change will be discussed by managers and analysts and fans who will each have a theory about what the Dodgers are building toward and whether this is the right way to build it. All of that analysis will be reasonable. Some of it will be right. But before all of that, before the takes and the statistics and the long-form breakdowns, there was a morning at Dodger Stadium where 2 phone calls were made, 1 locker was cleared, and a lineup card was rewritten in a way that nobody had predicted. And in a clubhouse that handles everything with the quiet professionalism of a team that has been in big moments before, the players absorbed it. They prepared. They went about the work of getting ready for the Brewers, with a different lineup, in a different configuration, carrying the weight of 2 announcements that changed the shape of what this team looks like going forward. In baseball, mornings like that one define seasons. Not always the way you expect. Not always in the direction you predicted. But they define them. The Dodgers had their morning. Now comes everything after it.